So I'm recording this video, I'm 39 years old. I've started 3 companies, I exited one, grew another one to 8 figures in revenue, and my third one's only a month old. But if I had a time machine and I could go back in time and chat with my 24-year-old self and tell him a few things about how to pull this off even faster, this is what I'd share. Number 1, the most important decision you make in life is who you marry. When I started my first company, UpLaunch, I was still working full-time in the fire department, and I was super scared about when is the right time to actually go full-time on the business and make the bet. And because of that fear, I ended up just doing both things. I was working, 100+ hour weeks, some days in the firehouse, some days in the office running the company, until finally one day my wife pulled me aside and she literally said, "Look, Matt, I don't even care which job you do anymore, but if you could just pick one, that would be great for our family." And it's kind of a gut check moment for me and something that I'll be grateful for until the day that I die, because she pushed me to get off the fence and make a decision. And the reality is this: if I hadn't gone all in on the business, it probably would have cost us our success because my focus would have been split and my family would have paid the price. Some things in your life are for a season and some things in your life are forever. And ideally, the partner or person you marry is in your life forever. So number 1, act accordingly, but also when they come to you with these things, they might be seeing something you can't see, and you got to pipe up and listen. Number 2, when you feel like you want to pull back, that's when you got to go harder. My time at SaaS Academy, I coached a couple of 100 software founders, and this is one of the most common mistakes that they make. Let's say you set a revenue goal, right? You need to make a whole bunch of new sales in order to get it. So you turn up marketing, maybe you're running a bunch of ads, you get a whole bunch of new customers, and you're like, cool, I did this thing. And then what do you think inevitably is going to happen? Right? You got to onboard these customers and deliver for these customers, and do the thing that you said you would do. And the people who are responsible for delivering that outcome will usually put their hand up and be like, "Oh my God, we can't handle all these customers. We got to dial this back." That is your moment as a founder, as a business leader. That is when you have to make the choice. Am I going to lean in and go forward and solve the constraint, or am I going to retreat and do what feels safe? Right? The thing that feels safe is like, oh, let's just dial back the marketing and not sell as much, and then we'll fix, the onboarding stuff, and then we'll come back and do it again. You are sacrificing your momentum. The thing about momentum that you need to remember is that it is incredibly hard to create, but a lot easier to maintain once you have it. Right? So you got to remember that when you find these choke points, when you find these pressure points in the business, it's time to lean in, continue to solve while you move forward, and don't sacrifice the momentum that you generated by doing the thing you said you wanted to do in the first place. Number 3, management is not a dirty word. It is a required skill. When I was in the fire department, the word manager was actually like an insult. We thought it was some lame corporate bullshit that people did, pushing paper around, and that it wasn't true leadership. And while it is true that management and leadership are 2 different things, in business, management is something that you have to nail. As long as you're the type of leader where your goals exceed what you can do individually, you're gonna have to manage a team in order to achieve the things you want to achieve, and you gotta get good at it. So here's what it means. It's tracking people's numbers diligently so you know whether or not they're on track or off track, and it's coaching them to success when the numbers aren't where you need them to be. It's getting to know your team on a personal level. I ask everybody that I work with what they want their life to look like in 5 years, how much money do they want to be making. That's a nerve-wracking conversation to have that most people aren't used to having. So you find that information out, and then you do frequent one-on-ones with them so you can help guide their career to help them hit the goals that they told you that they wanted. All of those things and a lot more roll up into being what I consider a rock-solid manager. It's personal productivity, it's organization, it's teaching, it's coaching, it's helping. It's a lot more than just doing the job. But if you're not willing to invest in developing that skill set, what you're saying to yourself and to your team is that you're not willing to invest in them in order to help them achieve the things that you want to achieve. You gotta nail management if you're gonna grow a company. Number 4, progress is supposed to feel boring. Look, most of us entrepreneur types, we're low-key dopamine addicts. There's nothing we love more than something that's new and shiny and unknown and probably a little bit risky. But the reality is that we can actually hurt our businesses pretty severely by giving into that temptation. So I remember I was coaching an entrepreneur on this exact topic. She had started a business. She got to her first $1 million in recurring revenue really quickly, which was awesome. And then she had a 6-month plateau where she couldn't figure out how to grow past it. So we were kind of popping the hood on the business and figuring out why. And I asked her one simple question: what was the way that you got the customers that got you from 0 to your first $1 million? And her answer was something called partner webinars. So she would make a network of partners who had big audiences made up of her perfect fit customers. She would go do webinars for these partners, and the people that attended would sign up for her software tool. Pretty simple. So of course my next question was, hey, what changed when you started to hit this plateau? She said, I wanted to scale a little bit faster, so I started running some Facebook ads. And I asked her, I said, that's cool, but you're still doing the partner webinars, right? And her answer was like, well, not exactly, right? We had actually taken our foot off the gas on the thing that was working well in order to try something new. We do this all the time as entrepreneurs, and we gotta stop. Like, a lot of the time, the progress that you want is on the other side of just doing the boring stuff that you've been doing over and over again, and just doing more of it and doing it a little bit better. So the bottom line here is just don't turn off things that are working simply because you have a personal desire for some novelty. Run your business by the numbers, and as long as something is working, your first job is to keep doing it and keep doing it better until the day it stops working. Number 5, people are incentivized by money even when they tell you they're not. I was a poster child for this in my first company. Like, I barely paid myself. I felt guilty about paying myself. My co-founder Jake had to force me to pay myself. I still remember the first paycheck we got was like $368, and I felt really weird and guilty taking that money out of the business. But it wasn't until my second business, when I actually implemented a comp plan that rewarded myself and my teammates for growing the company and hitting our goals, it wasn't until then that I realized that I was actually motivated by seeing the extra money show up in my bank account. And so what I learned is this: incentive design, right? Meaning the comp plans that you use to pay people and the drivers that dictate how much they earn. It's one of your biggest opportunities to invest in people as you scale your business, right? When the company wins, you can pay them an absurd amount of money, but you also have downside protection in case things don't pan out. Getting good at that will help you get good at everything else. Number 6, if you fix your health, you'll fix your business. I lived this one. Like, financially, my first company was a success, but it was also sending me towards an early grave. By the time I sold it, I had 2 kids. I was almost 70 pounds overweight and incredibly unhealthy. I literally couldn't even run around the block. It took me years to unwind that and get my health back. And it wasn't until I went through that I realized that by becoming more healthy, my work capacity and my ability to think critically and make good decisions had also vastly improved. You know, John Maxwell said this in the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. His first one, he calls it the law of the lid, where your business will never grow faster than you grow as a person. And yes, I think that applies to like learning new skills and building new habits, but it also applies to your health. So bottom line, if your business is going to be operating at its best, it also means that you've got to be operating at your best. And getting your health squared away is the foundation of all of it. Number 7, your memory probably sucks, so take notes. When I first joined SaaS Academy as their COO, within 2 months, people started jokingly calling me the writer downer. They thought it was because I loved taking notes. I really don't. It's for one reason and one reason only. I don't have a great memory, and if you can't recall information in business, you're gonna get crushed. With the technology that's available today, you literally have no excuse not to have a bulletproof information capture system. I did about 4 hours of research and then built mine, and what I was left with is basically a Notion database that automatically pulls in like all my tweets, all my Kindle highlights, all my articles, and sets it up so I can search it and find stuff whenever I need it. If you want more details on that, I shot a video about the tool stack that I use to run my company, and I dig into it over there. I got to give some credit here too. I owe a lot to Tiago Forte from Building a Second Brain. His course was what I took. It was the first thing that showed me that this was actually possible. But I'll leave you with this. Having this system where I can store, search, and retain information whenever I want has made me 100 times more effective as an entrepreneur, and it's something you should definitely do. Number 8, invest more in your marketing than you do in your product. And man, as a product guy, that hurts me to say out loud, but it's the truth, and here's why. I've met so many entrepreneurs that have spent years of their life and hundreds of thousands of dollars of money, usually their personal savings, to build a product only to find out that they built something that nobody wants. It's a tale as old as time, and it's entirely preventable by doing one thing: making sales as early as you can, even before the product is built. I've run this play with every company I've ever built. My first company, Uplaunch, we pre-sold 61 subscriptions with credit cards before we wrote the first line of code. What we did instead was we built an early version of the product on software that was already commercially available and sold that. And yes, it was like a little frustrating that it didn't work exactly the way that I saw it in my brain, but what I knew is that it made sense to invest to build it my way because our customers were already willing to pay for the solution. It's a critical piece of information that you need to get before you sink a ton of time and money into actually building something. The cardinal sin of building product is building something that nobody wants to buy. And this is the only surefire way that I know to avoid it. Number 9, if you're not sure what to learn, go learn sales. Look, I resisted this for so long, and I'll tell you, it almost cost us our first business entirely. We built this product, and our bright idea was we were going to sell it entirely through partners. They would do all the sales, they would do all the marketing, we'd build the software, we'd split the money. It sounded great on paper, but what happened in reality is that by abdicating our responsibility of doing sales and marketing well, we had no control over our revenue, no control over our pipeline, and no control over whether or not our business was going to survive. It's been about 10 years since that mistake, and what I've realized now is that people who are hesitant to sell usually just lack confidence in their product's ability to help people. That's the real problem to solve. And once you solve that, it becomes a lot easier to sell because you can do it from a place of service. You know that you can actually help a real person with a real problem with your real product. When you do that, selling feels easy and everything else falls into place. Number 10, love the problem, not the solution. In my first software company, I was very stubborn and opinionated about the exact way that I wanted the product to work, even to the point of trying to teach my customers why they needed to see it my way. Yes, we still had some success, but looking back on it, we probably could have 10x the size of our business by doing a little bit more listening to our customers and building software that helped them solve the problem the way they wanted it to be solved. You can probably guess what happened next. Another company came along, built a software product that solved it exactly the way they wished they could have used ours, and we started to lose a ton of customers because that company was better than us at listening to the market. The reality is this: your market will give you signals on what you need to build. They will tell you exactly what they want if you ask them. Usually the barrier is that the entrepreneur just needs to be smart enough to listen and humble enough to take the advice. Number 11. Don't project your beliefs about money onto your customers. Money psychology is one of the biggest things that holds founders back from building the businesses they deserve. Like, a lot of the time, we'll underprice our products simply because intuitively it feels like too much, and it's not actually based on anything, including the market's willingness to buy. There's one skill that you need to build in order to get past this, and it's mastering the art of value-based pricing. What it means in practice, if you're selling to another business, you've got to figure out the financial worth of the outcome that you're providing, and then build your price as a ratio against that. So if you know that you're providing something that gains that business $10,000 in value, you can probably price it at least $1,000. You're providing a 10x return on investment, and it's a great deal for everyone. Now, asking that person for $1,000 might terrify you, but that's a you problem, and this is where we get in our own way as founders. So my advice to my younger self would be this: master that skill, do the math, figure out what the equation should be, and stick to it. And if the value's not there, instead of just lowering the price and getting in a race to the bottom, figure out how to increase the value of what you're providing. Build a better product, do a better service, deliver the value to the market, and then you can charge the price that'll actually help your business thrive. Number 12, don't worry about scaling, worry about winning. In my first business, even when we were small, I spent a lot of time preparing to be big. We spent all this time messing around with project management tools and software platforms and processes and procedures and all these things we'd need when we were operating at scale. But we were spending that time, we were still small enough to sit at my dining room table. What I realized when the company did start to scale is that when we were small, I had no idea what we'd actually need, and all the work I did preparing was wasted because we had to redo it all anyway. When you're running an early stage company, the most important thing to focus on is the next right move. So sure, do the task manually until it becomes so annoying that you have to automate it. Do all the calls yourself until you're 100% sure you've got to hire someone. It's a startup, it's new, it's small, it's chaotic, it's supposed to be messy. That is a good sign because it means you've got a lot of work to do. Lean into it and spend the time fixing the problems in front of you instead of spending time thinking about how you're going to solve problems one day when you're a big company. So I had a lot of fun making this video. It's super cool to look back and think about all these stories from my earliest days as an entrepreneur, and I hope the stuff in here served you well. I love to write about stuff like this, so if you want more where this came from, including some stuff that's in more detail and more depth, I'd love for you to get on my newsletter. Just go to mattverlack.com/newsletter. You can sign up. It's free. It'll always be free, and I'd love to see you over there. Hope you have an awesome day.